many of us have faced the scenario or are facing the scenario where we have to push ourselves to work. We dread the thought of getting out of the bed and getting back to work. So, one point we all need to understand, our career is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And there, understanding as well as managing this particular issue becomes very important. Because if this lack of interest or motivation is for a day or a few days, it's fine. However, in case it becomes a perennial issue, it's going to be your career which would get impacted. So, sharing 7 points with you, which would enable you to bring out a greater enthusiasm pertaining to your work, especially in case you have to push yourselves to work. So, these 7 points can be of value addition to you in this endeavor. The first point is try to understand the cause. So, why are you not motivated or enthused about your work? So, it could be issues at your workplace or maybe some other issues. It could also be some personal issue at your end. However, understanding the cause is going to be extremely vital. The next point you have to bear in perspective or evaluate is whether you are working on realistic goals. Because it can happen that we may not be working on realistic goals, or the goals may be too high for us to achieve, and subconsciously we know that, and when we realize that in our mind, somewhere we start losing interest because we presume or assume we are not going to be achieving that particular goal. So always set realistic goals and analyze and understand whether the goals that have been set for you or you are pursuing are realistic goals. The next point is whatever tasks that you're doing, especially in a scenario where you have to push yourself to work, what you can try to do is break your tasks that you have to perform at the workplace into smaller elements that can actually make matters simpler and lighter for you. So when you break the larger tasks into smaller elements, you'll be able to manage it and complete it faster, as well as you will not feel that it's a kind of a difficult scenario, and you will be able to manage it well. The next point is you need to understand that along with work, what is also important is the importance of taking breaks at regular times. So many a times when we work for long hours at a stretch without breaks, there is this possibility of us getting a burnout or us getting burnt out. That can be avoided. So at regular intervals, regardless of how preoccupied or busy you may be, please take breaks to rejuvenate, refresh, and recharge yourself. That's going to be extremely vital. So it could be just a break for a few minutes. However, that can actually enable you to regain your perspective and work with greater gusto. The next point that you'll need to also do or consider doing is reward yourself. Whenever you've completed a certain task successfully or achieved a certain goal, you can possibly reward yourself in whatever way you like. For example, if you're a person who loves chocolates, possibly treat yourself to a chocolate. In case you're someone who's health conscious and likes to exercise or work out, you can possibly spend an extra 15 to 20 minutes on your workout. Or possibly if you have a certain hobby, spend some time extra on that particular hobby. So learn to reward yourself by spending time or doing something which would rekindle your motivation and enthusiasm. So this element of rewarding yourself is extremely vital. The next point is at times when there's a lack of interest in our work, we can try to change the environment in case we have that flexibility. In case you have the flexibility to work from anywhere, possibly you can change the environment maybe for a few days. You can work from some other location. This could be a coffee shop as long as there's not too much of disturbance in the background, or some other space which would have this element of novelty and something new. And it would also enable you to have a better perspective Because at times we are just sitting at one particular place and working on days and months together. Somewhere there is a mental saturation. So changing that environment or enhancing the aesthetics. So even you're working from home or from office, maybe making some positive changes to your workstation, making it more pretty, attractive, or beautiful. That would be of value. So working on augmenting or making the environment better or even changing the environment at times possibly would enable you to rekindle your motivation pertaining to your work. The next point, what you need to also consider doing is talk to someone who's close to you. So confide about your problems in case of this issue pertaining to lack of motivation or you have to push yourself to work. Then speaking to someone who's close and trustworthy, such as a family member, a friend beyond office, or even a colleague at office who you can trust. So speak to that person, share your issues, obtain advice, because at times sharing your difficulties or the points that you're facing in terms of challenges, that can enable someone to give their point of view. And one, you also feel lighter because you've shared a challenge with someone else, and that person, I'm sure, would support you with giving well-meaning advice. So these are the 7 points pertaining to how you can overcome or try to manage this scenario where you have to push yourselves to work, or in case you dread starting off with work. One thing you need to understand, this is not an uncommon issue. Many of us, including me, have faced this scenario where we just don't want to get back to work. The reason may be whatever, however, one thing you need to understand, that at the end of the day, us getting into this particular issue can impact our career negatively. Understand that every moment lost, especially in case of a lack of interest or absence of motivation, is going to impact our career in the long term. So understand about this and take whatever measures feasible to overcome this challenge. And I'm sure with the 7 action points which I've suggested, you will be able to ensure that you don't have to push yourselves to work, and you will be able to get to your work with full enthusiasm and with the highest level of motivation. Thank you very much for your time.